Design Pickle is a big supporter of everything unSeminary. If you haven't heard, they are a flat rate, unlimited use graphic design service helping churches across the nation. We're a proud client of theirs and love how they help us make social media graphics and those downloadable PDF article summaries that we've been sending out. Even if you have a designer, you need to check them out. To learn more, visit designpickle.com/churches. On that same page, you can watch a totally free 30-minute video of me and the founder of Design Pickle talking about modern church marketing. And of course, pickles.
Welcome to the unSeminary podcast. Are you looking for practical ministry help to drive your ministry further, faster? Have a sinking feeling that your ministry training didn't prepare you for the real world? Hey, you're not alone. Join thousands of others in pursuit of stuff that we wish they had taught in seminary. Buckle up and let's get started with this week's unSeminary podcast.
Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome to the unSeminary podcast. My name's Rich, the host around these parts. I am so glad that you decided to tune in. I know there's a lot going on at your church, particularly this week as we head into this weekend, and I'm just so honored that you would take some time out to listen in. Today, we've got Matt Robertson on the line from Gateway Fellowship Church. This is a fantastic church that started back in 2008. And they've done some really cool stuff around church planting and reaching out into their community, and have seen some amazing things happen in the last few years. And we're excited today to have Matt, who's their executive pastor of ministries, on the line. Matt, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, Rich. It's great to be here. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks so much. I'd love to hear, a little bit about Gateway Fellowship. For folks that don't know, that haven't kind of heard your story, tell us a little bit about the church and tell us about your role there.
Well, as you said, we started back in 2008 in a living room with just a handful of people praying over the city of San Antonio, just a huge burden for the city. They began to grow and they conducted services in a few different places and took over a hotel ballroom for a little bit and jumped into an elementary school for a bit, and then ultimately landed in a theater where they conducted services for about 3 or 4 years. And it was around that time, John really began, our lead pastor, John Van Pay, began praying, that God would lead us and direct us to some land. We had a couple of different opportunities that were afforded to us, but in the end, just everything fell through. And then there was a relationship that developed with Hobby Lobby. And man, they bought a piece of land for us. They donated it to the church, and we were able to immediately begin to build on that land. And we launched in 2015 Easter Sunday here in our new property, new facilities. It's been amazing. So
now what happened? Well, first of all, let's back up pull apart the Hobby Lobby piece of this story. Like this is an interesting piece of what happened here. Tell us a little bit more about that.
It's an absolute miracle. I gotta confess, I was not here in the middle of all that, so I'm going to speak very generally about it. Mm-hmm. But we have a relationship with AG Financial Trust, and through that relationship, they connected us to David Green, who has a vision, obviously, to see the local church advance in the nation. Mm-hmm. And part of what they do on occasion is they will offer opportunities to purchase land. They'll hold on to it for a year, and then they'll donate it to a church. I don't know what their process is for going through all of that.
That's amazing.
Sorry, Hobby Lobby, for all of a sudden now you're going to get 5,000 applications, but
yeah, exactly.
It was just amazing and just a miracle from the Lord, and just very timely for us as a congregation. So
yeah, that's amazing. So how many people were attending before you moved into the building, and what did that look like, kind of the lead up to the move in? And this was 2015, right? So we're just over maybe a year and a half ago.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really crazy. Don't really know how to explain it, but we had about 800, a little over 800 in the theater. Mm-hmm. And when we launched on Easter Sunday, and Easter Sunday is kind of normally a little bit bigger than normal, but we launched with 1,800 people in the new building. Crazy. Easter Sunday. We were able to retain probably about 1,400, 1,300 or 1,400 of those. And I don't know, that was about a year and a half ago, but this year we came into the fall. And now 16 months later, man, we find ourselves right about 2,600 on a weekly basis. So yeah, we're staggering 189% growth, and we're just asking God, help us to be faithful to all of it, to what you've put in our laps. So it's great.
I know there's a lot of church leaders that are listening in that'll be like, man, that's amazing. That's incredible. I wish that would happen at my church. I do hear the humility in your voice, and I know that's how you position, yourself, that, it's not like, hey, look at us, we've got this all figured out. There's got to be some pain associated with that kind of growth, going from, 800 people to, 2,700 people in a relatively short period of time. what did that look like? How was it that what are the lessons you've been learning through that?
It's very scary. You wake up every morning with just a realization that, oh God, help us today. We absolutely depend on the Lord for everything that we do. Very quickly, Rich, we became lids. All of us became potential lids, including our facilities that were designed to ultimately carry us 3, 4, 5 years into the future. Overnight. I mean, we had just moved into them overnight. They already become a lid. And so facilities were a lid. Our own ministry growth and development was a potential lid.
Crazy.
You have a student ministry of about 70, and all of a sudden now it's 150. You've got a kids ministry of 120, and now it's running 400 or 500 every single week. And so overnight, you have to develop systems and processes that you thought you'd have a little bit more time to move into. Mm-hmm. So it's just it was a crazy, fun, scary experience.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, when you talk about, the lid, what is it that you've been able to do to try to lift that lid, maybe with your own team or, with caring for folks? What have you been able to do on that front?
Sure. Well, we identified 6 main areas that we really wanted to focus our attention on. Mm-hmm. There's nothing real special or unique about them, but I mean, overnight we knew we were going to have to do something with staff. Mm-hmm. How are we going to handle staff? How are we going to hire staff? And we just decided early on we're going to break the rules when it comes to how we care for our staff. We know a lot of churches where their staff members get off maybe one weekend a year, typically. But we said we're going to break the rules and we're going to allow our staff members, our team members, to get off 6 Sundays a year. So we did that. We allow our staff members to have a sabbatical for pastors after 5 years of serving. We give out date night gift cards to our full-time married staff members. Whenever we hit a target or a special mark or whatever, we allow that. We have special staff play and pray serve days where, the 5th Tuesday of every month, we'll get together and do either something fun or we'll serve together in a different component outside of our local church. And then we have 5th Fridays. It's a real big deal to our pastor that our team stays relational. But one of the big things that I noticed when I came here about a year and a half ago was just the process for hiring here was just different than what I'd encountered anywhere else. We hire only from within for the most part, and so gives us an opportunity to really watch people who are already doing the work, who already carry the culture of the ministry. And they also have a built-in relational equity too. So, I mean, when they start on day one, they start. I mean, They start right away. They've already got people in their circles of influence. And so it's been good. So we focused on staff a little bit. And then,
why don't we talk a little bit about that? What, when you think about staff health, the thing I love you there is just some practical ideas around, here's some ways. What, was that born out of some pain that happened through this process? I'm assuming, right, that it was like, hey, this just overstretched the team. And now that you've kind of implemented that, what is the difference? You've kind of have you seen some differences? What is it? What has shifted in the culture during the last number of months? Maybe even just the time you've been there.
Just the staff was, we're working out, we've added a Saturday night service and we have, 3 Sunday morning services and an Espanol service, on Sunday. And so our weekends are just, what used to be a dedicated time for maybe hanging out with family, could potentially be a time where you're ramping up for weekend every week. So, it did become, something that we saw immediately that we wanted to address. But again, it's always been a real sensitive area for our pastor. He's always wanted to make sure and protect the health and the life of our staff. So
very cool. Now, how did you care for all those people? So all these people show up. I know there's pastors that are listening in that are saying, to go from 800 people to the number you're at now, that's just a lot more problems. That's a lot more people with a lot more issues. How is it that you're able to care for those people in a real tangible way, so you're not kind of letting people fall through the cracks? What's that look like?
Yeah, well, it was a real big deal when our pastor launched the church, even back in 2008. We're going to be a small group driven ministry, and so from the very beginning, it was very intentional about forming the church around the building of small groups. And so from the very beginning, that's how we approached that whole deal. Now we have 50% participation we're seeing in small groups. We're trying to play catch up, but we have 70 or so small groups for our adults alone. But we do small groups, Rich, from children to student ministries to adults. I mean, every single component of our ministry follows that vision, that mission. And it's a great way for kids and for students to build relationship with mentors and do that. So that's where all of our pastoral care happens. Our small group leaders, they take all the hospital visitation. They do the ministry. They do one-on-ones. Every single one of our small group leaders, they have a group of about 10 to 12. But they meet weekly as a group, but then they also meet throughout the month individually with people. And how's your spiritual life doing? And we follow the model of up, in, and out. And so they'll take a few minutes. How's your relationship with Jesus doing? And then they'll go inward. How are you doing? How's your marriage? What's going on there? And then how's your ministry? How are you doing your small group component? How are you doing at work? And so we have that kind of care not only for our small group leaders, but also for our church body. It's happening. So it's been a really good thing. We have training for our small group leaders as well that takes place to help prepare them for those moments. But yeah, no, we couldn't do it without the heavy weight and focus of small groups here, of course.
Absolutely. Now, what are you doing to get people plugged into groups on the, people that, as they're arriving, what does that process look like? How are you? And I know every church is always trying to improve that, but what's kind of the current process look like?
Oh my goodness. Our small group leaders are, of course, we're a big hunting area here in San Antonio.
Nice.
I mean, hunting here and all kind of stuff. Man, they take on the role of a hunter, fisherman, whatever you want to call it. I mean, they go on the offensive. I'm telling you, they are radical about getting people into their small groups. We have people are waving signs out in front. We have this den where everyone gathers after service.
Yep.
And we've got, of course, we call them the docs, and have got small group cards laid out with small group leader pictures blasted all over it with bios and so it's really cool. But people get an opportunity to kind of shop, if you will, I guess, for maybe a group fits them. It's also based on geography, so wherever they live, more convenient. But man, I'm telling you, those leaders get out there with, hey, talk to me about a small group, and they're tagging people in the hallways, and they take very seriously. The fish are in the boat, and we need to disciple them, get them connected. And so it's pretty fun to watch. Actually.
Very cool. Is that every week that's happening, or is that like
every week?
Wow, that's amazing.
Every single week. We also do a couple of big events. We're not necessarily an event-driven church, but once a quarter we usually have a big event where the sole idea behind that is to connect with people. We have them put on different color name tags if they're not already connected in a small group. And so our small group, they just attack them. It's like they're going after them. And after we've asked them, hey, do you feel violated after this event? People that aren't connected in a small group, and they say no. The opposite of that is true. We've never felt more loved and like more cared for. The people care enough to ask us to be a part of their small group. So it's pretty. That's
a great little, just to kind of tease that out there. That's a great little, just even tactic. I think this thing we constantly battle with in churches is we do want to create some anonymity. We want people to be able to control the experience, because there's people that come and there's a fair amount of nerves around that. But then the reality of it is people need connection. They need to actually plug in and get to know some people. And in order to do that, you usually have to create a little bit of friction in their lives, and something as simple as like a different colored name tag can do that. That's really cool. Well, I can imagine growing quickly, getting volunteers. You talked about kids ministry. I immediately went to some of my kids ministry friends who were like, man, I can't believe it. If we went from 100 kids to 500 kids, I'm not sure what we do. Well, maybe I do. They quit. What have you done to try to continue to feed your system and connect people in serving opportunities?
It's kind of funny. Our director of volunteers is actually the children's pastor's wife. Okay. So she just recruits everybody for their department, and everything works out just well. Of course, I'm kidding, but at any rate, we look for people who are, we call them fat, people who are fat, faithful, available, and teachable when it comes to developing our volunteer base. We have, right at about 650 active volunteers.
That's great.
And I'm telling you, it's amazing. It's been really fun to watch happen. Just 250 of those we've added this year. And so we're very intentional. We do our big asks from the stage. And so, hey, we'd love to have you here, but we celebrate our volunteers on a regular basis, and we push it from the stage a lot with video. We share testimonies of people who are engaging in the ministry, and Andy Stanley's adage, what you do for one, what we wish we could do for everybody. We'll bring them up on stage, give them a gift card, love on them, just thank them for being faithful. So those are some of the things we do. And we have like a volunteer roundup, a yearly celebration where we pull everyone together and we just have a bunch of fun together. It's a lot. So it's fun.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I think we talked about 3 things: staff development. We've talked about pastoral care, volunteers. What else were we, in the 6 that we've, things that you identified? Hey, we got to focus on.
Well, training and evaluation was another thing that we really felt like we needed to. We're constantly growing. We need to be growing so that we're not the lid, and we need to be reproducing people who are learners as well. And so we had to learn very early on. Nothing is sacred. You were hired to do this, but you may also be doing 20 other things while you're at it. No one's going to stay just in a specific lane initially. We learned early on that as a staff culture, we wanted to have a fun staff culture, and that for us meant we were going to be finishers. We're going to finish well. We're going to be unoffendable, which means we're not going to take things so easily, so to heart every single time. We're going to have to be quick to change a move and not be offended by it. And we're always going to have a team mentality, no I in team. And so we're going to have a fun culture. We're going to be constant learners. And so that not only is the staff learning, we're going to read 24 books a year. We're going to listen to 75 or so podcasts. We're going to have one-on-one leadership development. And so we do that with our staff members. In some staff member situations, you can find where the evaluations may only take place 6 months into the year, but for us, when you're adding and you're changing processes and systems so quickly, you really need constant feedback. And so we developed a monthly reporting system. So at the end of every single month, we meet one-on-one with our direct reports and just kind of, how's you doing? Again, the up, in, and out strategy. How's your relationship with Jesus? How's your relationship with your wife? How are things going with you personally? And then how's your relationship with your ministry? Tell me about your ministry and what are you concerned about? What are your greatest challenges right now? And so, that really provides some guardrails for us so we can change more quickly when the time comes and when it's necessary to do so. And so constant learning, constant teaching, and developing our own leadership base. And we see that in yearly performance evaluations, Rich. We see it in development of church-wide goals, our department goals. At the beginning of every year, we ask every single staff member to turn in a personal development plan for the year. And it's not like what most leaders would probably do when they're setting goals for the beginning of the year. This is how I want to be with my health at the end of the year. This is what I see happen in my spiritual life. This is what I want to see happen in my family, in my marriage. I really want to carve out time for date night. That kind of stuff's a big deal. So every single staff member has to turn that in. And it's just a reminder. It's important for us to be developing ourselves because we're modeling for people what we expect to see out of them. So
very cool. Very cool. That's amazing. What on the facility side, what have you had to do? I can't imagine, you kind of touched on this earlier. You built this facility and it was like, okay, this is going to last us for 3 to 5 years. And then wham, okay, that's a problem. What have you done on that front?
We had to add services. We were at 85, they tell you at 75, 77% capacity. People it feels too full for them. They walk in and they go, oh, this is full. I don't have a seat. We've had people climb back into their cars and drive away. And that's just unacceptable to us. And so as a team, we made some decisions to sacrifice. And so what we did is we just added another service and we began to promote and push those services. And the middle service, our 10:30 service, was our most popular, and we really wanted to start driving people to the 9 a.m. And so we began to cast vision for free tacos and free breakfast tacos at the 9 a.m. service.
Nice.
Come feed your kids. You're going to be here anyway. Come feed your kids first for free. And we still do that to this day. It's a great ad, and it keeps people coming to the 9 a.m. service. But we did a real big thing where we cast vision. And this is moving into one of the 6 components that we do here, is that we're intentional about creating a culture around the why. We're always talking about the why. We're celebrating the why. It's always in front of people. And so when we started our Saturday service this fall, we got in front of them and we made it a missional opportunity. We need to create more seats for our friends to become devoted followers of Jesus Christ. It's not acceptable to us that people are climbing back into their cars and they're going back home again. We need to connect them in a seat. And so many of our volunteers, many of our leaders just said, you know what? This is me. I'm moving. And so they moved to the Saturday night service. And so we created moments of mission for people to move. And they saw it as them being active in ministry. This is their active ministry role, creating an opportunity. So those are a couple of things that we did to create space. Our parking lots were jammed. It was just crazy. But it's just been a great experience. Real fun challenges that we've had to overcome.
This is the unSeminary podcast. Stuff you wish they taught in seminary.
We're going to jump into the lightning round, that part of the episode where we ask similar questions of everybody that's on the show today. Been super honored to have Matt Robertson with us from Gateway Church, Gateway Fellowship Church. It's an exciting story happening there. Matt, what is an online resource that you're using these days that's helping you in your ministry?
Oh, we love Evernote. John Van Pay, my lead pastor, turned me on to Evernote. Love it. I use it for capturing all my meetings. I capture my devotional, my journal time, and those things as well. And I can easily search by anything by it. Love Evernote. I'm sold on it.
Nice. Very cool. What's a book you've read in the last, you talked about how you read 24 books a year as a staff. I'd love to hear. What's a book you've read in the last 6 months that's shaping your thinking or ministry?
Oh, well, for me, the relational journey has been one of the things that I've been working through. And so for me, it's Never Eat Alone. Keith Ferrazzi has been a real good encouragement to me to always stay in front of people, always be connected. And another one was Why Does God Allow Pain and Suffering? Primarily for the same reasons, just leading through pain was a big component, and being more authentic in our leadership style. So that was a good one. That was by Ravi Zacharias. So
very cool. Very cool. What's another ministry that you're looking at that's, kind of inspiring you, that you're looking at and learning from these days?
Well, I kind of was birthed out of Trinity Church in Cedar Hill, Texas, and I love some of the things you're doing there. I'm telling you, they think so big when it comes to reaching the community and just doing things with excellence. And so I carry, obviously, a lot of that in my DNA, what Jim Hennessy and Tim Ferguson are doing there. But of course, we have other influences in what we see with Elevation Church, and we're following Hillsong and some of those other guys. If not from a distance, we're attending conferences and those kind of things. But we love what we're seeing in them.
Absolutely. Very cool. Very cool. Well, if you could get 15 minutes with any leader alive, who would you want to get that with, and why?
Okay. Well, I thought about this.
It's a hard
thinking,
question.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
About presidents. I'm thinking about all these people. So, I'm telling you, Brian Houston, hands down. The fact that he is able to so quickly shift and navigate, and he's still, he is extremely relevant with the young generation, and he's always retooling and always shifting things and staying extremely relevant in what they're doing. I'm so excited when I see what he's doing. He just charges me up. I would love to sit down with him for 15 minutes. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is really amazing. I was at a Hillsong Young and Free concert, I don't know, a couple months ago. And my kids were going, and I was excited to be there. It was great. And I was really reflecting back on, his leadership, thinking, man, it's really amazing what God's done through Hillsong, through, Brian's leadership in a global way. They've made huge impact all over the world. That's true. He's quite a leader for sure, definitely. Well, I'm sure leading in a church like Gateway, you're just running all the time. But what do you do when you just want to unplug, have some fun, just do something, to relax a little bit?
And man, I love to golf. I love to get out and golf. It's just so much fun. My lead pastor and I, we get out and hit the course, hit the white ball around the course. It's a bunch of fun. I love to read too, and hang out with my family. I love to find obscure coffee shops with my wife and just hang out for a little bit. Just moments. We got a couple of kids. Nate, who's about to turn 7, and Caleb, who's about to turn 2, and so our lives are kind of crazy. But man, we love to get out with the whole family and just be silly together. So
nice. Well, this is great. I really appreciate you being on the show today, Matt. If people want to get in touch with you or with the church, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, mygateway.tv. Mygateway.tv is the website, and you can get connected to any of us through the website. That'd be good.
Thanks so much, Matt. I appreciate you being on the show today.
It's my pleasure. Thanks, Rich, for inviting me to be a part.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's unSeminary podcast. Don't be shy. We'd love to connect. Check out unSeminary Inbox. You can sign up at unSeminary.com, and we'll send you helpful training resources every week. Plus, you'll gain immediate access to our exclusive members area with tons of resources you can use. Connect with Rich on Twitter @RichBirch or through email rich@unseminary.com. Don't forget to check out the show notes for this episode at unseminary.com. It includes links to what we talked about today and more. Leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Did you enjoy today's episode? Drop by iTunes and leave a review. Thanks again for tuning in to this week's unSeminary podcast. Join us next week when we'll learn more stuff we wish they taught in seminary.